The old fisherman barely looked up when the woman threw his tackle box into the water in front of the entire marina. The laughter started immediately. Wealthy tourists watched from the restaurant terrace, while security staff surrounded the old man as if he were a criminal. The marina owner, Vanessa Whitmore, crossed her arms with contempt. "I told you I didn't want to see your rusty boat here again," she said with a cold smile. "This place is for real customers." The old man remained silent. His faded blue jacket was worn down by salt and time. His hands trembled slightly as he watched his small box drift away among the waves beside the dock. But his eyes showed no fear. They showed something far more dangerous: patience. And that was exactly what Vanessa failed to understand. Because that man was not simply a poor fisherman. 30 years earlier, he had commanded a secret rescue mission in the middle of the ocean during a classified military storm operation. A mission that saved hundreds of lives. A mission the government never spoke about publicly. And a mission that quietly turned that forgotten old man into a living legend within the Navy. But no one at that marina knew it yet. Not even Vanessa. The old man's name was Mateo Salazar. He lived alone in a small house near the cliffs on the other side of town. Every morning, he left before sunrise. He brewed black coffee in silence, checked his nets, and sailed alone in an old fishing boat named Esperanza. The paint on the boat was peeling. The engine made strange noises, and people at the marina constantly mocked him. But Mateo never responded. He never argued. He never raised his voice. He simply worked, simply watched, simply survived. The entire town believed he was a broke old man who could barely afford enough fuel to go out to sea. Except there was something strange. Every veteran fisherman respected him. When Mateo walked along the dock, even the toughest men lowered their voices. Some even removed their caps. And Vanessa hated that. She had purchased the marina 2 years earlier. She was young, wealthy, arrogant. She had transformed the old fishing harbor into a luxury resort for business executives and celebrities. The place no longer smelled like fish or gasoline. Now it smelled like expensive perfume and imported wine. Vanessa wanted to erase every trace of the old coastal town, and Mateo represented everything she despised: hard work, silence, humility. That morning, the tension finally exploded. A millionaire customer had complained about the rusty fishing boat docked near the yachts. Vanessa stormed toward the pier. Several tourists began recording with their phones. "Get this junk out of my marina," she shouted. Mateo slowly raised his eyes. "I've used this harbor since before you were born." A few people nearby chuckled. Vanessa smiled cruelly. And that's exactly why this place was dying. Then she signaled to the guards. 2 men began violently untying Mateo's boat. One of them grabbed an old metal box and threw it into the water. Inside were old photographs, documents, and a small naval compass. Mateo watched the water in silence. For the first time, he looked hurt. That only made Vanessa smile wider. "Look at you," she said, a poor old man clinging to useless memories. But then, something changed. An old fisherman named Ernesto dropped his fishing net. Another man slowly shut off his boat engine. And one by one, every fisherman began staring at Vanessa with serious expressions. Because they recognized that compass. They had seen it before. Many years ago, during a private military ceremony, Vanessa noticed a shift in the atmosphere. "What? Are you all going to cry over this old man now?" No one answered. Mateo slowly walked to the edge of the dock. With difficulty, he knelt down and pulled the metal box from the water. The photographs were soaked. He held them for a few seconds, then remained silent. But when he opened the box, his expression changed. One of the documents was missing. A gray envelope, old, sealed with a naval insignia. Mateo slowly lifted his head. "Who took the envelope?" Vanessa laughed. "What was in it?" "Your imaginary war stories." Mateo did not answer, but Ernesto did, and his voice sounded nervous. "Vanessa, it would be better if that envelope turns up." She turned toward him irritably. "Or what?" Ernesto swallowed hard. "Or you're about to get into trouble you don't even understand." Vanessa stepped forward defiantly. I own this marina. Then something strange happened. A young restaurant employee ran toward them. His face was pale. Mrs. Whitmore, there are helicopters. Everyone looked up. In the distance, 3 military helicopters appeared over the ocean. The sound shook the entire marina. Conversation stopped. Tourists began recording again. Vanessa tried to remain calm. It must be some kind of training exercise. Except the helicopters were flying directly toward the marina, and they weren't slowing down. The wind blasted through the restaurant tables as they landed near the main dock. Several naval officers stepped out. Immaculate uniforms, serious faces, and behind them, an older man wearing Admiral insignia. The entire marina fell silent. Vanessa forced an elegant smile and walked toward him. Welcome to Whitmore Marina, Admiral. But the man didn't even look at her. His eyes were fixed on Mateo. The old fisherman still stood beside his rusty boat. His clothes were wet. The old metal box was still in his hands. And then, the Admiral stood at attention, raised his hand, and gave the old fisherman a formal military salute. Commander Salazar. The silence was absolute. No one breathed. No one understood what was happening. Vanessa blinked in confusion. Commander, the Admiral slowly lowered his hand. This man led the most important maritime rescue operation in our modern history. People began looking at one another. The Admiral continued. 31 years ago, during a North Pacific storm, a submarine suffered a catastrophic failure. 187 sailors were trapped. The tourists stopped recording. Now they listened, mesmerized. The waves exceeded 50 feet. Every captain refused to enter. Every one of them, except him. The Admiral pointed toward Mateo. He went in alone. Vanessa felt her stomach drop. For 18 hours, he navigated through the storm to evacuate survivors. He saved 134 lives. Mateo remained motionless, as if he didn't want to hear any of it. After the mission, the government classified the entire operation. One of the officers handed the Admiral a small metal case. Inside was a naval medal covered in dust. The country owes him more than it can ever repay. Vanessa began to panic. I didn't know. Then the Admiral finally turned toward her. His expression was ice cold. You did know one thing. She swallowed nervously. What? That you publicly humiliated an honorable man. The entire marina watched. The tourists, the employees, the fishermen, everyone. Vanessa tried to defend herself. I was only protecting my business. The Admiral stepped forward. Your business? He pulled a document from inside his uniform. This marina exists because of him. Vanessa frowned. What does that mean? The Admiral slowly opened the document. After the mission, the government quietly compensated Commander Salazar by granting him ownership rights to these coastal properties. The color drained from Vanessa's face. That's impossible. Yes, it is possible. The Admiral handed the document to the attorneys present. One of them began reading rapidly, then looked up completely pale. Mrs. Whitmore. She stepped backward. What is it? The lawyer took a deep breath. Commander Salazar is still a legal co-owner of this marina. Vanessa's world collapsed in seconds. People began whispering. Some tourists even smiled. But the real blow had not arrived yet. Because the Admiral spoke again. And there's more. Another officer opened the old gray envelope that had been recovered minutes earlier. Inside were classified photographs, naval maps, and official signatures. The Admiral looked directly at Vanessa. Your company illegally built over a protected historic military rescue site. Silence returned, heavier than before. Effective immediately, all expansion operations are suspended. Vanessa froze. No, you can't do that. We already have. Then black federal vehicles entered the marina. Agents began placing restriction tape around several sections of the resort. The tourists watched in shock. The cameras kept recording. But now, Vanessa was the one being humiliated. She looked desperately toward Mateo. The old fisherman remained calm, silent, as if none of it mattered. And that was what destroyed Vanessa the most. Because the man she had treated like garbage never sought revenge. Never shouted, never threatened. He simply allowed the truth to reveal itself. Vanessa tried to approach him. Mr. Salazar, Mateo slowly raised a hand, and for the first time in the entire story, he spoke firmly. My father built this harbor with fishermen who risked their lives at sea. He looked around, at the boats, the nets, the ocean. This place was never created to humiliate humble people. Vanessa lowered her head, defeated. Then Mateo slowly walked toward his old boat. The Admiral saluted him once more, but Mateo only nodded, because medals had never mattered to him. He climbed aboard the Esperanza, started the old engine, and slowly sailed away from the marina. The sun sank over the ocean. The water shimmered in shades of gold. Everyone watched in silence. Then Ernesto smiled slightly and said, "Some men never need to prove who they are. They only need to wait for the right moment." The old fishing boat slowly disappeared into the evening fog, and for the first time in many years, the entire marina fell silent out of respect.